back to NostalgiaCast. I'm Darin Lundberg.
And I'm Johnny Craddock.
And today we'll be covering Contact from 1997, directed by Robert Zemeckis and starring Jodie Foster, Matthew McConaughey, Tom Skerritt, James Woods, John Hurt, William Fichtner, Angela Bassett. Again, this is a movie that means our bucket list season. This is a movie that means a lot to me. And so this is definitely our guest, our returning guest here. We seem to have a mutual love for this movie. So I wanted Johnny to welcome back Kevin the Critic to the podcast. We had him on for our episode of The Witches.
That's right.
Way back when.
Yep.
And it's funny, Kevin. Actually, let me ask you, Kevin, how are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Okay.
I'm doing good. Happy to be here and discussing this giant pie of a movie.
Giant pie of a movie. That's great. Well, I was going to say about The Witches is Nicholas Roeg. Like, we talked about the stylishness of that movie, and it's just something that's missing from a lot of blockbusters these days. And I think that's something that we really latched onto during that episode, is how kind of stylish and interesting and idiosyncratic it was, which again, everything was generic. We're coming at a time where they just released the new trailer for the new Harry Potter, which looks bland as hell. The new Moana remake, which looks bland as hell. So we're just in a natural state of bland as hellness in our blockbusters.
Well, yeah, like, and I'm not normal, and I don't have as much. I'm not as much like against the sort of stylistics with my blockbusters. I'm a bit more lenient on it than you are, but I will say the 1-2 gut punch of Moana and Harry Potter within the same week, I was like, okay, this is unacceptable to me. Both of these things are like, why'd you wash the color out? Why does Dwayne Johnson's wig look like he got it from a Spirit Halloween that was closing down and it was the last hour when they picked it up? Why
That's enough.
The Harry Potter trailer using visual style? It's like neither of them look good. Thankfully, this movie does look really good. Thankfully, Contact looks great.
Yeah, I mean, it comes at a time, we're going to talk Robert Zemeckis, obviously, where he's a very visual director, and it comes like at a sweet spot. Anyway, we'll get to it, but it does look very interesting. There's a lot of visual ideas. But Kevin, again, it's terrible because I meet so many soulmates on social media, but we just don't have time to chat with everybody. I mean, I'd love to have you on every week, but there's just so many other people that we like chatting with. So we've been trying to get you on for a long time. What was it about Contact? I know that you tweeted something about it, and then we kind of talked. This is a long time ago, but what was it about Contact that, for our bucket list season, why is this movie that you'd want to talk about? What does Contact mean to you, and what was your first experience with it?
So my first experience with Contact was that. So several years ago, I was living in an Airbnb run by some like older lady, and she was like, and I was looking through this random DVDs that she had, and Contact was one of them. And I was like, okay, this is Jodie Foster, Matthew McConaughey, Robert Zemeckis. Let's see what this, I was like, let's see what this is. So I turned it on one night, and I was like, this is really cool for a science fiction movie. Like the approach that this takes in the well-worn idea of what if we discovered aliens existed, I think it's a more sort of grounded and thoughtful exploration of that without being depressing to watch. Like there are a couple other movies that have tried to do the what if aliens were real thing, and it's like, okay, why does everything look visually dark and just drab and everything? This sort of meets in that middle point for me of, okay, it's a movie, but the way people react to things to the idea feels more plausible, and the issues that come up within this version of the world. It's like, yeah, if aliens existed, I fully believe that most of this would happen, or things similar to it would happen.
Right.
And so it makes it easier to go with than some other like alien invasion stuff for me.
Okay. And were any of the lessons that the movie taught, were those I get that you're talking about the stylistic stuff because I feel that same way. What was there anything about the message of the movie and the way that it presented the message? Was there anything that really spoke to you personally when you watched it the first time, or that have affected you in the years since of rewatching this?
Yes, and I would say that I really appreciate the messaging of this. For me, is whether you believe in God or a spiritual being or not, it's sort of up. I think they take sort of an "it's up to you" kind of approach to it. They
Mm-hmm.
don't. I like that they don't lionize one side of the argument of that, or demonize or lionize or demonize one side or the other of
Mm-hmm.
it. And I think it's about as nuanced a discussion of religion that you would probably get in a major Hollywood movie.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, like we would. It's a lot of comparing, like thinking about how they would have handled this now if they wrote this now versus how they wrote it in '97. It's like I appreciate there's more attention to detail and more of a mature approach to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's that. So I just appreciate so I appreciate the balanced nature of it and the sense of discovery about, like, the sense of fun and discovery about the alien stuff. It's just like there's a lot of different things I get out of this.
Right, right. Well, again, this movie isn't just released at the time of Harry Potter, the Harry Potter retread, and Moana redo, and again, I think they announced the 13 going on 30 like remake. So it's just we're in just a state of nonstop.
Okay.
So this movie also comes at a time Project Hail Mary just basically opened in theaters and is taking the box office by storm with its
Yeah,
positivity and its search
yeah.
for understanding and discovery, stuff like that. So again, a very interesting time to actually be talking about this movie now. Jonny, I know that you were gone on your mission again. This seems to be the year where you were gone. You didn't see a lot of these movies in theaters
Yeah,
because you were gone for a couple of
I had
years.
a lot of catch up to do when I got home.
Right. So what was your so I know we didn't see this together. I saw this with my cousin Keith, but what was your experience with Contact and why would you say this is a good fit for a bucket this season?
Yeah, well, I didn't see it with you in the theater, but I saw it with you at your house because you
Okay.
had shown it to me. Because like I said, I was gone when it came
Showing you
out.
all the stuff that you missed.
Everything I missed, I came to you to say, "What did I miss, Darin?" But yeah, what was the question again? Why is it fitting
Yeah,
for this?
what did you find profound about that movie in your first watch, and then why
In
do
the
you think
first
it's a
watch,
good
honestly,
conversation?
only one thing stuck in my mind from my first watch with it, and that was the shot of her running up the stairs and her
Mm,
hand reaching for the mirror and
yeah.
going, "How did they do that?" That's all I could think about. Like, how was that done?
Yeah.
And so when I think about this movie, that's what I think about, that
Mm,
shot. And I couldn't wait for the DVD to come out to like watch the special features behind the scenes, how it's made and how they did it. And
mhm.
honestly, I never bought the DVD, never watched it. Just until recently, I actually like looked it up to see how they did it, and it was like that's fascinating how they did it. They actually had like a green screen, and they kind of like melded two shots together, where there's the one shot and then her going up the stairs, and it
Yeah.
was fascinating how they actually did it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the one thing that I think of when I think of Contact, and that's really all I think about when I think of
More the
Contact is that one shot.
more the filmmaking. Okay. And again, it's weird, Kevin. I think we talked about with the witches, like Johnny and I really cut our teeth on these 90s movies. But it's very strange. We're
Yeah.
finding out this whole decade that we didn't really do a lot of research on these movies that we love so much. And I don't know if it's because the internet, I think the internet really started hitting its stride this year in 97. That's when like forums
Mhm.
and like Batman and Robin and stuff are really hitting their stride and
Yeah.
things like that. So maybe that had something to do with that. Johnny, maybe we just didn't have access to finding
Yeah,
out how these things were made. We had to wait for the Encyclopedia Britannica to come out
right.
on Contact. But my
Oh.
first experience with this, and again, we'll see into a conversation about Robert Zemeckis, is this came after Forrest Gump. So
Mhm.
I guess I hadn't set, we had an episode that we recorded on Forrest Gump where we figured out that we'd soured on the movie quite a bit. I hadn't soured on Forrest Gump by this point, so I know that I was excited to see the new Robert Zemeckis movie. And I
Mhm.
approached it my cousin Keith and I, who was out visiting or living with us at the time, we approached this the same way that we approached Forrest Gump when we saw that. We had no idea what it was about. We didn't really watch trailers for it. We just thought it's Zemeckis. Let's sit down and watch it. And Forrest Gump blew us away at the time because of the technology and the special effects and things like that. And then so we just again, and then we walked out going, what was that? Like we weren't expecting it. And it was the same thing with Contact. We walked into this movie. I think we saw this the same night they did a preview screening of this and Batman and Robin. So you could watch Contact, but then you could stay for basically you're just paying for Batman and Robin and you got to see Contact for free. So you got to see 2 movies. We obviously left before Batman and Robin started. But again, watching this on the big screen, again, we were blown away by it. I know, Johnny, you were blown away by the filmmaking stuff, but I was really blown away by there was a lot of religiosity stuff happening in here. There's a lot of profound what you're talking about, Kevin, about how they have the science and the religion and politics too. It's this movie is basically a three-way conversation between those things.
Yeah, I swear to you, I have not watched, watching this movie. I'm like, I have not watched CNN against my will this much since college. Like, exactly. Man, there's so much it's good stuff. Like, it's realistic. It's like realistic discussions that we'd be having. It's like, wow, there's so much new stuff in here that I'd forgotten about.
Yeah. So you've got Larry King shows up, Bernard Shaw shows up, Brian Gumble shows up. So yeah, they had a lot of that realistic thing. But I just thought it was really interesting because movies I think politics and religion are hot button issues, like for movies. Like you don't talk about that stuff. It's not something that people are comfortable with. And so the fact that this movie has the whole movie is a conversation between those 3 things. And how do you get them to work together? Like the primer or whatever with the 3 little, like the diagrams that are printed out. It's basically 3 different sheets that have to be molded to form the primer to basically figure out how to work everything. And so it's those 3 things that are working together. Watching it this time, I thought that was really profound. But again, when I first walked out of the movie, I felt a little bit changed because I thought, wow, you don't expect a big Hollywood blockbuster to cover religion and cover politics and do it in a way that's like this.
And I think when I like right before I had seen it, I think that was probably right. It was right after I had gotten into watching Next Generation stuff. So I had just gotten into more thoughtful science fiction. And I think when I looked at the back of it and I saw Robert Zemeckis, I'm like, all right, I expected a big sort of explosions movie because it was, again, the premise is, what if aliens were real? And I've seen so many alien movies where it's like, okay, we're going to blow this up. And so when I turn around, I'm like, oh, this is actually about a story and exploring these ideas and these characters and how they butt heads with each other and sort of the implications of this. And then it gets a little spectacle-ish at the end, but I was shocked at wow, he's actually telling a story with this. He's not rushing to get to the big effect shots that I know he loves to do. Right. So that was probably the biggest surprise for me. Is wow, this is actually an adult look at this idea.
Right, exactly. Well, Johnny, what are your thoughts on, because again, we've covered Robert Zemeckis in Back to the Future and in Forrest Gump. As a filmmaker, what do you think of Robert Zemeckis?
Well, I like him, and I think he's visionary. I'll give him that. He's able to accomplish some really amazing feats when it comes to special effects and everything. And I do like his movies, not all of them, but I think he's a good director. However, I will say this: sometimes some directors, they kind of get stuck with a certain I don't know, like for example, M. Night Shyamalan. He has to have a twist in all of his movies because he got stuck with Sixth Sense. Now he's he has to do that, otherwise it's not an M. Night Shyamalan movie.
And people expect it, yeah.
And I think Zemeckis kind of got stuck in that same rut where he had to do something to outdo the last one he did, or he had to do something a little more fantastic with the special effects, or how can I improve? How can I be better than Forrest Gump? How can I be better than, whatever? And then I see movies like Welcome to Marwen, and that's interesting and it's fun to watch, but it's do you have to do all these things to prove that you're a visionary filmmaker, or can you please just tell me a good story and get me engaged and give me a good time? Don't constantly try to outdo yourself. And I feel like he kind of got stuck in that place. But anyway, he's good. But then you see movies like Here, and you're like, what was that? That was almost too
Yeah.
too
Ugh.
artistic and
Oh,
too.
it sucked.
It's just yeah.
Was it? I saw the trailer. I saw the trailer for Here, and I'm like, okay, you're here, and I am way over there.
Yep.
I'm not here with you.
Yep.
Here is one of those movies, and this is why you should avoid it like the plague, where it's trying to be profound, and because it's trying to be profound, it's just really stupid and empty.
Yeah,
And
that's
it
what I'm
feels
saying.
I
like
got to the trailer.
Yeah,
Like, I got the trailer. Like, oh, this is what.
Yeah.
From the trailer, like, oh my god, it's gonna be one of these movies that I always hate, where it's like we all like movies where it's like we're all connected and we all affect each other. Like Cloud Atlas may be the only movie in existence where they did that theme, and I was like, okay, I go with you. Almost
Right.
every other movie, and I know that movie has problems, but like almost every other movie that tries to go for that, like we're all connected and throughout time, and I'm like, yeah, no.
Yeah. Well, here's not a bad idea for like a 10-minute short for a college student. You know what I mean? Like that's what I would expect to see a movie like that.
Right.
Not from Robert Zemeckis.
Freaking Benjamin Franklin is a main character. He's a support. Benjamin Franklin is a supporting character. And then it's one of those movies where you hear people, if they like it, all I can think is, you just fell for it, man. Like you're falling for this. It's not that deep. And I feel bad because I usually like people to have their own opinions, but that's just one of those movies where roll my eyes at.
Like, I guess like the de-aging thing, and having only seen the trailer for this thing, but like
it's so much worse.
There are lots of movies that have used the de-aging where I'm fine with it. It's like, look, I understand using technology. When I saw the trailer for this, I was like, guys, wasn't Tron Legacy like 25 years ago now? Like, are we? I mean, yeah, it looks better than that, but
yeah,
like I know what Tom Hanks looked like in 1989 whenever this looks like it's set, and that no, stop spending money on this. I know you're better than the Zemeckis, please.
Right. Well, again, the movie basically just boils down to Tom Hanks and Robin Wright having arguments every now and then for two, and that's supposed to be really deep. And then again, I don't know how, I can't remember how Benjamin Franklin comes into it. I think they just cover, they even cover dinosaurs. Anyway, I don't want to make this a Here episode. Let's not talk about that. Basically, going back to Zemeckis, though, what's interesting about Zemeckis, and I apologize if we're repeating stuff from Back to the Future, but he did stuff, he and his writing partner, Bob Gale, when they first started out, they did I Want to Hold Your Hand. They did Used Cars. They did Romancing the Stone. And Back to the Future, I would put in there, where they're not special effects heavy movies. They're story and character driven movies, and they're so good. They build to these great climaxes, and they're so great. Who Framed Roger Rabbit, I think, was his first real taste of, look what I can do with technology, and I can make a movie out of it. But Who Framed Roger Rabbit does that perfectly. You have Bob Hoskins like bouncing off and feeling like he's interacting with actual physical cartoons. But then you also have a film noir story that accompanies that, a film noir story that holds water and that's very good and can stand with Chinatown or The Big Sleep. And so I think Who Framed Roger Rabbit really works. But then you go into Back to the Future 2, which we did talk about, where it's more technology than story based. Death Becomes Her, which I think is fun, but there's no meat on the bone. It seems like it's a very empty movie. And then Forrest Gump, again, souring on that. It feels like, all this great technology kind of blinds you to the fact that there's a cynical, kind of backwards thinking movie where you're rooting for an idiot, basically. And to succeed in America, you have to be an idiot. That's really what it's, and just follow the feather or whatever. Never make your own informed decisions. And so Contact is a nice balance, I think. I mean, I would enjoy after this, like What Lies Beneath and Castaway. Allied, I thought was pretty good. The Walk was pretty good. But everything else, I like Here, like his remake of The Witches, which is interesting. We're talking with Pinocchio, which is just awful. I just think that Contact is a great balance of the technical stuff, because again, it's you talked about that shot, Johnny, that masterful shot, which again I think is a melding of three things. It's them following the Jenna Malone character up the stairs backwards, and then they meld that with the shot where the camera is the camera is really just placed looking at this cabinet, and then that shot starts with her hand coming in, opening it up, and then the shot of her running disappears, and then when the cabinet door closes again, that's a blue screen. There's no mirror there. So they put a reflection of the picture, and so there's that technical mastery here, but those moments are few and far between. It's not the whole movie. It's there to support the movie. Again, when you look at that opening shot, which is what, like 4 minutes
Yeah,
long.
that opening shot, and then all of his, because I was looking for his camera tricks, and there's a lot of them in here. Like he plays with his camera a lot, but it's either like small sequences like the opening, like 4 minute shot where he's like playing with slow mo and then transitioning from her as Tim Malone to Jodie Foster, or like this the way that he moves his camera around talking around dialogue scenes so that it's visually interesting.
Yeah.
The energy kind of shifts depending on what the character's emotions are. It's like it feels like he's really in control. It feels like he's really in control of the movement and what he wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about that because a couple days ago, I found his 2007 Beowulf movie and put that on, and I was like, within 10 minutes, I was like, "You're trying to impress me with these camera moves and this animation," and I'm like,
look what I can do.
I feel like I'm watching a God of War 3 cutscene. Like I don't like I'm not. You're not telling me a story. With this, I was like, yeah, it's very well shot, but you're telling me a story that I'm invested in, and so I'm just into the story and not as I'm not distracted by all your technical wizardry stuff.
Well, this is again him working with Don Burgess, who did the cinematography for Forrest Gump. So it has that stuff. They meld Bill Clinton, which I thought kind of, because they use it kind of as a joke in Forrest Gump, but they use it more seriously in here. And there's the first time you see Clinton come in and he's at the podium, the light doesn't match because again, I think they originally had hired Cindy Poitier to play the president, but Zemeckis was always like, how do you meld, like, how can I have Bernard Shaw and Dee Dee Meyer like pop in and then have a fake president? It doesn't quite work. And so when Bill Clinton gave this talk about this asteroid that was found and had like Mars pieces in it, like it was from Mars, he was like, oh, I can't believe it. And so they're able to use it. But again, the lighting doesn't quite match because it looks like it's outside, but they're inside.
Yeah,
but,
I noticed that a little bit. I saw about the Forrest Gump scene and how well to me, the Forrest Gump bit where he integrates the president in with him, that footage still looks amazing to me. This I was like, it's almost there, but I can tell a little bit that you're having to play around.
Well,
it's not as seamless.
He's dipping back into his bag of tricks that he's already done, so it's not really impressing us. We know what he's doing. But my point basically here is that first shot of the pullback that basically has like the signals coming from Earth and how it disappears. That shot, even though it's technically great, it ties in with the themes of the movie. The whole movie is about an awful waste of space, and you have the sound of humans and humanity, but it kind of fades out because there's all these other galaxies. And so even that shot fits in. The shot that we love of the mirror shot, that it's not just the show off shot because you're in young Ellie's head. She's in a state of panic. And so that's just how she sees the moment, right? You have, again, I just think that and then there's some great melding of things. Like, I don't know if you guys realize this, but when you see the Arroway's house, the outside of the house is in a separate place, and then everything inside in Ellie's room is on a soundstage. So they're able to blend the exterior shots with the soundstage shot. And the same thing when you have that great sequence where they first start hearing the signal, and it's all like, it gets you so pumped and excited. But it has that shot where it's Jodie Foster running up the stairs into her building. That's actually a meld. Like, she's outside at first, she runs in, and there's a part where she runs through a door, and there's this, you can tell if you're really looking for it. The camera kind of slides, but it is a melding of now we're inside on a soundstage, and he does that a lot. But again, we don't notice that stuff because it's giving you a feeling of she's rushing in to get to where she needs to go. You're not really noticing. Again, when you see Ellie's hand come in and grab the cabinet door, you're not looking for that. You're not specifically looking for it. You're caught up in the moment. So I just think that this is with special effects, I just think this is a nice blend of story and special effects that are kind of hidden, like special effects tricks to support the story, as opposed to like being Beowulf or Polar Express or Here, where you only notice the artifice. Right. And it doesn't really support what you're watching. I don't know, Johnny, what do you think about any of that?
I think that's how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to use special effects sparingly and make it, fit with the story. And I think they do a good job with that in this movie.
Right. Okay. So I guess, Kevin, another thing that you kind of hit upon is that this isn't a dumb movie. Like you thought it was like going to be an alien shoot 'em up movie, right? That's what you're saying.
Well, because I thought, I thought, okay, this is, and I know that, like, as you said, like Ron Zemeckis, he became more tech focused as his career went on.
Mm-hmm.
This is like right in the middle of that. But yeah, I was thinking, yeah, I'd grown up on sci-fi movies from the 90s, like, like Independence Day or things like that. And so my view of the 90s sci-fi on film scene was like, okay, so these are all just gonna be like big, dumb, fun, cheesy action things, and that like Independence Day or Starship Troopers or things like that. Like this is what 90s sci-fi at the movies is. And so when I turned this on, I was like, this is that this is engaging my brain. Like I'm not waiting for the big effects things. When they come, they're cool. But I was like, wow, I love that you're it's patient but not slow. Like things move along well. Like the pacing in this is really great, but it doesn't feel like it's bored with itself or trying to get you to the next cool thing. It's like, no, we want you to sit here
Mm-hmm.
and just be with her and feel what she feels and sort of mediate on the issues they're bringing up as they
Right.
come.
It's interesting because you did have Independence Day and Mars Attacks that came out the year before this, which is dumb. Yeah, I guess
Yeah,
entertaining. Mars Attacks is more satirical,
yeah,
but it's
yeah.
more
I like both.
dumb sci-fi, right? It's not.
Yeah,
I like Independence Day a lot, but it's not a smart movie. It's a dumb movie,
no,
which I guess is the point. So it's interesting having
yeah.
this as a counterpoint. But again, I thought it was fun. I was looking at some research on this. This movie hit at a sweet spot because the comet. I'm going to read this. The comet Halley-Bopp had become visible to the naked eye in May of 1996 and reached its full perihelion, I guess they call it, which is the closest point to the sun, on
Okay.
April 1st, 1997. So a few months before this. And then on March 26th, that's when the Heaven's Gate cult committed suicide because they were
Oh, that's a
trying.
real thing? I
Yeah,
didn't
they
know
thought there
that.
was a spaceship
I
that
didn't
was
know.
traveling behind this comet that they would, if they killed themselves,
Oh,
they would be transported to it. And then they would transcend
oh,
their human forms and reach a higher existence. So that took place on March
oh.
26th as the asteroid was passing through. On June 27th of the same year, NASA's near the Shoemaker spacecraft, it flew by an asteroid called the 253 Matilda, which is and it captured like 500 photos over 25 minutes, but that was the first and only flyby of a carbon rich asteroid. So that happened in June. On July 4th, NASA landed the Pathfinder on Mars, which is the first time they'd done that, landed an object there since the Viking missions in 1975 and 1982. And then also in July was the 50th anniversary of the Roswell UFO incident. And that was held for 1 week in Roswell, New Mexico, and it drew like 50,000 visitors. So this movie, it kind of hit at a point where you had all these things that were kind of converging about space. And this is also when X-Files was probably in its most like popular
Yeah,
hype, right?
yeah, this is right in the middle of the X-Files craze. And so I understand why studios would look at that, like look how big X-Files is, and that's a huge sci-fi show. So we have this string of big starry sci-fi movies. They're trying to capitalize on that, and we got a lot of good stuff out of it.
Right. But again, I just think it's a smart decision to make this a smart kind of patient movie as opposed to a dumb movie. And so that's basically what I want to talk about next. But Jonny, you're not a big sci-fi person, but why would this movie be more interesting to you than like a Star Trek First Contact?
Maybe because it's more based in reality. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Like, yeah, there's some sci-fi elements, but like I can still follow these people because they're not, I don't know, superheroes or monsters or aliens or whatever. They're
Right.
people, and I can like relate to them better. However, I disagree a little bit in some of the pacing. It's a little bit slow in the middle, and
Mhm.
I have to admit I fell asleep again. So
Oh,
I woke up to James Woods
Oh.
talking, saying something. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot he's in this movie too. So that woke me up.
Right.
But yeah, like I don't know. I don't know why I have a hard time with the sci-fi element. I just do. I just have a hard time believing any of it and wanting to care. So,
Right.
but this one I don't mind. I can go along with it. I can enjoy it. I don't mind this one as much.
Okay. Well, what
Mm.
about like Zemeckis's filmmaking? You were talking earlier about there's some things that maybe don't quite work for you. Is that right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, well, there's a couple of things that I just noticed as I was watching it, and I wrote these down because I thought they were interesting. But the first thing was when the young, what's her name again?
Ellie Arroway.
Yeah,
Ellie.
The young Ellie, when she's like after the dad dies or whatever, and she like is on the radio again. Her hair is in front of her face, and she takes her hand and she like pulls the hair behind her ear. She actually moves some hair, and I was like, okay. Then the very next shot is Jodie Foster, obviously the adult Ellie, and she has her hair in a ponytail, and she does this for no reason, other
Your
than to
hair's
tell
not
us,
there.
hey, that's the adult version of the character. And
Yeah.
it's like, you don't need to do that to me. You don't need to tell me that that's the adult character. I know that's the adult version of what I just looked at. You don't need to do that little move to tell me that. And
Mhm.
so, plus, she's not moving anything. There's no hair to be moved other than, hey, look,
Yeah.
it's the same person. Not that that was like, okay, you can do that later. Maybe you do it when she's like working at a desk or something, and her hair falls on her face, and she pulls her hair back, and you can go, oh, yeah, hey, that's
Right.
something from her childhood. So that was weird to me. Also, the freckles don't really match. What's her name had some freckles on her face, little small little freckles as a kid,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and they're not there as an adult. I know sometimes you can lose your freckles, but I think they would still be kind of there. And I've always had a pet peeve when movies change eye color for a character when they're from adult to a kid,
Mhm.
or they have a mole somewhere that's not there anymore. And it's like, where'd that mole go? That mole would still be there, and her eyes would still be
Okay.
blue. They wouldn't be brown now. So I'm glad that at least Jodie Foster has blue eyes,
Yeah.
because they match the blue eyes of the kid.
Well, that's another CG thing they had. They changed the color of Jenna Malone's eyes to match Jodie
Oh yeah, she
Foster's.
has
Oh, they
brown
did.
eyes, huh?
Yeah, but they
That's
made
right.
Oh,
the eyes blue, which
I
is
forgot
cool.
about that.
But it's not something
yeah,
you'd
that's
notice.
cool.
There's
Yeah,
no
but
sign
No,
to
I'm,
say,
I
"Hey,
but
look
didn't.
at
see,
her
I'm
eyes."
I'm
So
glad they match though.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, one thing I noticed too. This is when Tom Skerritt's character's doing the test, whatever, and he's gonna do the thing, and she's in the control room, whatever, and she like gets nervous and she runs over to the camera and grabs the control panel, the joystick, and she like pulls the joystick down, and the camera zooms in to see
Mhm.
the bad guy was Gary Busey's son. I forget
Jake
his name.
Busey, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Who's in the
and
Frighteners that
yeah,
Zemeckis
yeah.
produced? Yeah, yeah.
So she
Oh
pulls the
yeah.
joystick down, and that zooms in, and then you're like, okay. Then the next shot, she pulls the joystick down, and it pans down. So I was like, is it a zoom or is it a pan? What's that joystick do? So that kind of stuff,
Oh,
I always
okay.
notice that kind of stuff in movies,
Right.
and so I wanted to bring it up because they saw that. They were like, you know what? That's the same move, but a different thing happens.
Right. Well, you mentioned Jake Busey just really quick. I think it's funny because he was in The Frighteners, which is why they cast him in
Yeah.
this. He was in Twister
Oh,
as
it
one of the
is.
technicians, and
Oh
then
yeah.
he showed up in this, and then
Yeah.
Starship Troopers later this year. So he had a
Yeah.
good couple of years where he was kind of right there, and
Yeah.
then not quite as much. But I guess that's a good kind of segue. I wanted to talk about this movie mainly from the perspective of religion, and I want to mention too that this is based on a Carl Sagan novel, who again is a very popular scientific mind, and he wrote I think he planned this from 1979, and it just didn't come to fruition until he wrote a novel, I believe, in '85, and then finally in '97 they're able to make a movie out of it. And so a lot of this, like the Awful Waste of Space, that's a quote that's attributed to him. So this movie is very much Carl Sagan, which is why it says for Carl at the end. He died, I think he was supposed to cameo, but he died a year or so before. Sometime in '96, late '96, he died of a sickness. But anyway, I thought it was very Carl Sagan and very smart that way. But uh, like I said, the thing that really affected me walking out is I can't believe that it touched on a bunch of religion stuff and trying to meld that with science. I love that this movie is basically about Ellie. Let me ask you guys, do you think because when her dad dies, is she an atheist before that? Or does she become an atheist because she's mad at God? Kevin, what do you think about that? Where did that come
I think that I think the way that I think the way that we see it, like the before her dad dies, the question of God doesn't even come up. It doesn't even come up. Like we don't see any religious paraphernalia around her house or anything. So there's no, I don't think there's any proof that God would be a part of her life. But yeah, I imagine that if she lost her dad when she was 10 years old, and the
from?
priest came up to her and said, we don't sometimes, I'm paraphrasing it, sometimes we don't know why things happen. It's just God's will for them to happen. I find it completely believable that somebody, at that age would react to that and become an atheist. It's like, why would God kill my dad? Would probably be her
And my
thinking.
mom. Right, right, right.
Yeah. Why would God kill both of my parents? And then already being into science, she'd be like, okay, there's no scientific proof that God exists, and so logically, yeah, she'd be an atheist because of that. And I like that they don't lean into that, or like they don't, like Johnny said, like they do the hair flick things that you know it's her. I like that they don't do that again, and they don't have a scene where she's like, "I'm an atheist because God killed my parents."
Yeah.
Yeah, because how could you be an atheist if you're mad at God? That means you know that
Yeah,
God's there. So
Right.
yeah.
Well, what do you think about that, John? Do you think that her dad's death is what forces her to have that mindset for the rest of
I
her life?
I think that, yeah, I think that's what pushes her in that direction. That's what, that's what her focus is, and what drives her for everything she does. Is she's
Mhm.
not that she's mad at God, but because she now has purpose. She sees it as like, this is my purpose in life, is to,
Mhm.
do this because my dad would, she's trying to not impress her dad, but do it for her dad, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
if he was still here, we'd be doing it together, but he's not here, so I could do it alone, kind of thing.
Exactly.
Um,
Well, the great thing about this movie, from my perspective, is that it very much leaves it up for interpretation. Right, a lot. The movie ends in a way where it's up to you. You decide if you're going to believe this or not. But personally, I think that when you're that young, I don't know if she really has an idea of what God is, because I know she's talks to her dad about, can the signal, can we talk to mom over the CB radio? Right? He says, I don't know if we can reach that far. So I don't know if she has a concept of God. I think when that priest is talking to her, I think that's what basically solidifies it for her and says, there's no God. It's something took him from me, and I'm going to figure out what it is. Like, even though she's still trying to find her place in the world, I think that's where that comes from. But so we're going to have to talk about Palmer Joss, and I don't want to make this. If you guys want to talk about the performances, we can. I think it's interesting having Tom Skerritt play an asshole because that's against type. I think it's fun having James Woods play an asshole. I think he's very good at that. I think Angela Bassett has authority. I think John Hurt is very, very good. It's funny having two alien guys, Tom Skerritt and John Hurt, in the same movie. And Jodie Foster, I think, is Jodie Foster. She's always going to give a great performance. She's one of our greater actors, and she's very committed, and she sells the blue screen stuff. Before we start talking about Palmer Joss and McConaughey and the religious stuff, Kevin, what do you think about any of the actors and Jodie Foster in particular?
So for I think barring one person who we will get to momentarily, I think the entire cast is really great. Jodie Foster in particular, I think, knocks this out of the park as far as like, she plays a very, very believable, intelligent, nerdy person.
Mhm.
There are tons of movies that have, the nerdy person who has to do a bunch of technobabble and sound like they know what they're talking about and be really passionate and intense about the science. Like, this is what I believe, like, follow the evidence, this and that. I think that Jodie Foster makes her feel, I believe that she is, I really believe that she is this impassioned scientist, and kind of a geek, like sort of a lab geek in a positive way. She imbues it with realism that a lot of lesser actors and actresses sometimes don't, and so she stood out to me for that. It's like, no, you're really good at playing this kind of character, and the script that she has to work with is really well written as well. Like, she eats it up. I think she's a standout here out of everybody.
Interesting. Okay, Johnny, what about you? Any actor in particular, or Jodie Foster?
well, Jodie Foster, I think, like you say, is really good. I think she sells it. She has this look in her eyes that she does a lot in her movies, and that for me is what I believe when I can see it in their face and their eyes, and I can watch their eyes and know they're actually feeling the emotions. That's where it's like, yeah, okay, I'm with you. I feel
Yeah,
it,
I agree.
and I think she has this intensity, like just like presence that she has in her body and in her face and her eyes. She just like brings it in every role she does. There were a couple moments where I was like, what was that? One was the hair thing. The other thing was where she looks at the camera and she says thank you, and when they give her the
The
money.
Haddon, yeah, the
Yeah,
Haddon.
I was like, all
Oh,
right, you
yeah.
lost me a little bit there. Just that one little moment, you lost me a little bit because
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know why it was weird. It just looked a little bit like
I agree.
maybe she
Yeah.
was a little out of character in that moment.
Right. Well, she has a vulnerability to her too, right? Where you don't buy her as a cold, an ice queen. Like, she's very vulnerable human person who is very intense and who is very studied and who can be obsessed. And that goes from, Silence of the Lambs to Taxi Driver to this. So she's a very good
Yeah.
committed actor. So Johnny, we talked about McConaughey in our Time to Kill episode, and this is one of the examples of when I said I think he coasted on his Jake Brigance persona a little bit too hard. This is one of the examples of that, where I'm just gonna talk just like this, and you're gonna love me because I'm Southern and I'm sexy, right? And I think he relies on that way too much here, where I don't. This and Amistad came out the same year. I don't buy him as a lawyer in Amistad. I don't buy him as a religious scholar in this. I get that he's a sex symbol and that she's attracted to him. But what's interesting about McConaughey's character is I love that the movie has them talking because McConaughey represents the religion. Foster represents the science, and Scarrett represents the politics, right, which are always butting heads. So McConaughey is supposed to register as the religious person and have those conversations, and it works for quite a bit. They're basically, I like their first conversation. Well, obviously he says it's an awful waste of space, and it's that whole thing where it's like, oh, girls will always fall for the person that reminds them of their father, and so that kind of builds to that. I like when they're in bed and he's telling her that story about how he had that great religious experience and he knew that God existed. And then her rebuttal is, well, do you just think that it was something that you needed at the time? I mean, so they have these conversations constantly. I like when he appears again years later and he's like, why do you want to go on the ship? And he's like, she says, I need to discover where we come from. I need to find that. And he's touched by that. So I like all that stuff. And then there's a part, and this is going to be, I'm going to try to go a little bit lighter on this for both of you guys, but there's a part where they're meeting at a party and it has Jodie Foster in a great dress. Like, wow, she looks great in this dress. Like, cause she's the nerd, right? But she looks gorgeous. McConaughey obviously looks good in the tux or whatever, but they have a conversation where they go outside and it's, again, she's trying to get him to say, oh, God is a myth, right? But he's not going to falter on that. I like when he, explain that to me. And he goes, okay, well, let me just give you an example. Did you love your father? And she goes, yes, very much. And he just looks at her and he goes, prove it. Now, when I was in a theater watching this, it reminded me, Kevin, Johnny and I have religious leaders that we followed. And there's a man named Boyd K. Packer, who in a talk called The Quest for Spiritual Knowledge, I'm just going to read this. I'm going to try to get through this as fast as I can. But he says, I sat on a plane next to a professed atheist who pressed his disbelief in God so urgently that I bore my testimony to him. You're wrong, I said. There is a God. I know he lives. He protested, you don't know. Nobody knows that. You can't know it. When I would not yield, the atheist, who is an attorney, asked perhaps the ultimate question on the subject of testimony. All right, he said in a sneering, condescending way. You say you know. Tell me how you know. When I attempted to answer, even though I held advanced academic degrees, I was helpless to communicate. When I used the word spirit and witness, the atheist responded, I don't know what you're talking about. The words prayer, discernment, and faith were equally meaningless to him. You see, he said, you don't really know. If you did, you would be able to tell me how you know. I thought perhaps that I had borne my testimony to him unwisely and was at a loss as to what to do. Then came the experience. Something came into my mind, and I mentioned here a statement. A person may profit by noticing the first intimation, I hope that's the word, of the spirit of revelation. For instance, when you feel pure intelligence flowing into you, it may give you sudden strokes of ideas, and thus by learning the spirit of God and understanding it, you may grow into the principle of revelation until you become perfect in Christ Jesus. Such an idea came into my mind, and I said to the atheist, let me ask you if you know what salt tastes like. Of course I do, was his reply. Then I said, assuming that you have never tasted salt, explain to me just what it tastes like. After some thought, he said, well, it's not sweet and it's not sour. I said, you've told me what it isn't, not what it is. After several attempts, of course, he could not do it. He could not convey in words alone so ordinary an experience as testing salt. I bore testimony to him once again, saying, I know there is a God. You ridiculed that testimony and said that if I did know, I would be able to tell you exactly how I know. My friend, spiritually speaking, I have tasted salt. I am no more able to convey to you in words how this knowledge has come than you are to tell me what salt tastes like. But I say to you again, there is a God. He does live. And just because you don't know, don't try to tell me that I don't know, for I do. And I just thought, again, just one line saying, prove it. And I flashed back to this talk that I'd listened to. And it basically says the same thing. It's like, you can't prove it. It's a thing about faith. This belief in God is not somebody that stands in front of you and you have it as a constant companion. It's about faith. It's an idea. It's something that you follow. And I love that the movie builds on that to the point of the end where Ellie is somebody, she's a scientist. She needs proof. She gets the proof that proves to her that there are other beings. And I want to talk about that whole sequence when she does the warp and goes through the wormhole, but she emerges from that a different person. And I love in the congressional hearing where she's like, I can't explain this, I just know that it's real, all I can tell you is that it's real, right? And she inspires when she goes outside. Sure, she has the reconciliation with Palmer, but there's that giant crowd that have time saying, I believe in you. And she's touched these people. And so she's kind of a vessel to bring people to this other belief. Maybe not even that they have the answers. It's just that there's questions out there. There's a guide now. There's a mission that I can go on to basically understand a higher being. I just thought for a blockbuster movie that it's talking about this stuff and it leads to that climax, I just thought that was just so powerful for a movie. But it does it in a way that it's sci-fi, so it's never heavy-handed. Except, I guess maybe in the end, because a lot of people that I've been talking to are disappointed in the ending. I think maybe because it leaves it up to the audience to decide. Maybe that's why they're kind of disappointed with it. But I don't know. I just really loved all that. And then we'll obviously talk about McConaughey. But what do you think about that, Kevin? Any thoughts?
I actually, so I think the first time I saw the movie, it got to the ending, how it plays out, and I was a little disappointed. I mean, I think I cried the first time I saw the ending of that because I was really engaged by the father daughter element of it and her like seeing him and like that's like I was really emotionally engaged in that part of the plot, but also I was like, okay, I thought this was gonna be something more, and then on rewatches, I really liked that the ending does exactly what you said, where they sort of leaves it up to your interpretation of did she go to heaven or was it the aliens? Like it's sort of, I feel like if you go one way, you risk alienating a segment of the audience needlessly, and so by doing it how they did, yeah, some people might not be happy because like, oh no, I wanted the more simple answer to this, but I think it's more memorable than if they had just said, hi, we are the Clark Daxians, and you have discovered us with the Vegan, signal, or yes, I am God. Now go forth and spread thy message, my daughter. It's like it's very just, yeah, it's like, yeah, like so, yeah. I think it was the more balanced conclusion to it that doesn't undercut either of the lead characters' belief systems.
Right. Well, she says the line, which is very important. The most important thing is that you continue to look for your own answers. She says that to a new generation of explorers who are innocent, who are not cynical. I love that it ends with Ellie back to her open-eyed, wide, like willing to accept possibilities. I love how it ends for her. But again, I don't want to make this like a super religious thing where we're preaching at anybody, because my whole viewpoint on religion is I'm just going to live as an example. And if you want to follow my example, then do that. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you what I think you need to do, because that's not what I do. I'm just going to live my life and be the best person I can. Johnny, what do you think about any of the religious stuff?
Yeah, well, that's actually one thing I like about this movie is that it doesn't preach to you. Like it doesn't say, here's how you have to believe, you have to follow this, or you have to like believe what I believe. When movies preach at you and they like force these things on you, like if it's political especially or whatever, I get turned off big time. So the fact that it's not like preaching politics or religion or anything like that, to me, it's just kind of leaving it open. I really like that. And so that's why I don't mind it so much.
Yeah.
Because it's not forcing down my throat.
Sure, absolutely. It's Ellie's movie. Like she makes up her own decision. You follow that with it. And I don't know, maybe that's why people don't really get like the ending, because it doesn't give them any solid answers, and it leaves like a 2.5 hour movie that basically says, okay, it's up to you. Right. That's not very satisfying from a narrative point of view. But again, just that's a long way of coming back to McConaughey. I think that's the last part where he asked her to prove her love. That's the last point where I feel he's a good character and a good foil, because after that I feel like it just gets really repetitive. My issue with this movie is that it does things like that you notice that don't really work, that are more deus ex machina, that kind of thing, but it does it again and again and again. So like by the last time, how does Palmer Joss keep showing up? Like, how is he on the ship?
So thank you so much for bringing that, because I was thinking, so the scene where I noticed that, I noticed two things that the movie kept doing repeatedly. thing number one, Palmer Joss, who is the movie says he's a well-known religious figure,
Mm-hmm.
but that's it. He's not like that's it. Why does he keep on randomly showing up in these government meetings and like it's like so I'm late, gentlemen. I was defending Samuel L. Jackson over there in Tennessee before I walked in. It's like, all right, it's like, dude, like, why are you late to a government meeting? Why are you in a government meeting? It's kind of convenient that they allow him to be like the movie has to invent reasons for him to be in the story in the second half a little bit, like, oh, you just so happen to be one of the people on the board that decides who gets to go. It's like yeah, sure, this random
Well,
beatnik. It's like yeah, that's thing number one. And thing number two that it keeps doing is that there are times in the movie where it looks like Ellie is about to encounter an obstacle to getting what she wants,
Mm-hmm.
and the movie will just like snap it away, like, oh, she wanted to go up, and they announced an American pilot, but his kid said he didn't want him to go up into space, and he can't turn down the kid, so of course
Mm-hmm.
she's gonna go. Or like, oh, they just turned down the funding. Oh, I just happened to find this. And some of that's fine because like, look, the plot needs to happen. But some of it is like, Ellie, I know you don't believe in God, but he's watching out for you throughout so much of this. Like, there's so much divine intervention going on
Yeah.
in here.
Right. Well, Johnny, you were going to say something. What do you think about McConaughey? Oh, I think we lost Johnny. Oh, there he is.
I'm back.
He's
You
back.
guys
He's
froze
back.
for a second there.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Johnny, you were going to say something. What did you think about McConaughey?
Oh, just that okay. He's able to show up and get places because he has really nice hair. You can get into places if you have nice hair.
Yeah.
Right.
He does have very nice hair.
And you talk like him, you get let in to wherever you want to
Sure.
go.
Sure. It's the Jake Brigance effect, right? Again, when he pops up that third time where he pops his head in, I was like, oh, come on. And that whole dialogue that he has with her about, I just didn't want you to go because I love you so much. Like,
I didn't find the
like,
romance in this at all.
Yeah,
I didn't find the romance in this at all. Like, where did that come from? And like, and then like, I think I almost want to say that he's miscast in this role because I think that most of the dialogue that character has is fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, most of it's written fine, but I do not buy Matthew McConaughey as a religious, like as this religious scholar that they're trying to push him as. I don't think that he really. I grew up, around people who around people in the church and that. So I've been around people who are into that. He doesn't convey the worldliness of people like that. He doesn't really convey. I can't imagine this guy reading his Bible at night at all. Like, I can imagine him bench pressing or using the Bible as a with like a coffee stand, but I can't imagine this guy giving a sermon or teaching a Sunday school class or even like doing it at college. So I think he's acting okay, but he just doesn't carry himself as the character as well as Jodie Foster does. So when they have scenes together, like, I see a character on here, and yeah, as you said, Jake Bergans of God with another and I kept thinking, like this is called Project Hail Matthew because it keeps on hailing him back in. Right. It's like, again, he's not bad. He's not bad in the movie. It's not a bad performance. It's just I think that they cast him for probably more of a sex appeal thing, which they utilize very early on. I was like, all right, so this is why he's here.
Sure. Well, I agree with that. I don't buy them as romantic partners. I buy them as sparring partners, but they don't really sell the romance quite as much. I know Zemeckis said, oh, it's a nice 1940 thing where they can't be together because they have different ideologies. But I don't know if they really sell that at all. But
no, they don't.
So again, he just becomes less of a character and more like a sounding board the longer the movie goes on. So, but in this, because McConaughey has given great performances and he's won an Oscar.
Yeah.
I just think that
Yeah.
he's gliding on too much here and he doesn't really sell that. But anyway, you talking about him kind of gliding in and saving the day and being the Deus Ex Machina. The same thing happens with Haddon, to the point where the last time he does it, I kind of groan, because the first time, we've already talked about it, she's in that meeting, they're not going to give her the funding. All of a sudden she notices a camera, and then he calls the person on the phone and says, you give her that money, and then she says thank you. That's the first time he shows up. The second time is when they can't quite figure out how to make those 3 diagrams fit together, and he has the email there, and they're able, he's on the ship or whatever. I thought that was very interesting. It's exposition, but it's interesting to look at. And we talked about the camera movements. Burgess and Zemeckis, they're not doing close-ups. They're kind of doing lateral kind of slides that get you closer to the characters, but not like the obvious. So I like that the camera, like we said, is obviously always moving. So that's the second time he gives her the primer. And then the third time, after, and I'm going to come back to this, when that first machine blows up and they're at a loss, they don't have anything. And then like magically, oh, there's another one just ready to go for you, right? And it kind of sells it. I love how he goes, do you want to take a ride? I'm like, that's cool. I get that.
Yeah.
But at that point, I kind of was like, oh, come on. Like 3 times this happens. Like, and what a Deus Ex Machina is the plot can't go any further. If it wasn't for that, and Kevin, you hit on that, the plot kind of stops. Haddon has to come in to do something to push it forward. That's what but I guess that kind of makes sense, because it is literally God and the machine, right? And they do build up Haddon as being this kind of kooky, crazy Bill Gates gone off his rocker kind of person, not living on the earth anymore, literally his head in the clouds.
Yeah, but he says it.
Yeah, and he could be a fraud, he could be a huckster, but I like how he dies and he's not there to get Ellie through that congressional hearing. He's not there, and she does that herself.
Very happy for that. So and then the other thing about the other thing about him is that when Ellie first meets him in person, and we get that exposition about who, like, her life, basically, like, yes, Ellie, I know these things about you. I like a lot of the musical score in this. Like a lot of the music is very, very nice to listen to. Alan Silvestri did it. The musical score for the first half of that scene where Ellie is meeting him in person gives him a creepy vibe, or it gives the scene kind of a creepy tone that I don't think it's meant to. Like, and the way that he's lit in the scene, I kept thinking of, like, is he about to say, like, hello, Ellie? Like, it feels like they're kind of going on the, it feels like, is he about to eat her? Like, what are they? Okay, the good guy. Okay, phew. And then the music changes to back to the normal score. But it's like I think there's a musically misjudged moment in the first part of that bit with him that just sort of, I know the character's a good guy, but the way that they light him sort of puts me off of him a little bit as an audience member. Like,
well, that's kind of the purpose,
good,
though.
The visuals are good. I mean, I get it. Oh yeah, I get
pushes
that
it maybe too far.
It's a purpose, but yeah, like it's only in that. It's really like in the scene where she first meets him, with the music where it pushes it too far. After that, I'm like, okay, I get he's good. He's not weird, but it's like in the introduction to him, it's like, okay, but yeah, he's a Deus Ex Machina if there
literally
ever was one.
Right. Even though, like I said, even though it makes sense plot wise. So again, very strong with the way it's a constant conversation, like we talked about, with religion versus science versus politics and how they work together. And they can. I like how it's Palmer and Ellie that kind of join at the end, and they kind of transcend the politics that are kind of trapping them or whatever. But I guess I just want to close out with a couple of things. Then I'll ask you guys if there are any other topics you want to talk about. First of all, I want to talk about that first machine explosion. Something that movies, when you watch enough movies, and Johnny is going to agree with this, and Kevin, you probably agree with this, is that when you see enough movies, you can kind of see plot beats coming. You know exactly, oh, this is going to happen here, that's going to happen here. When the Jake Busey, I think his name is Joseph, I can't remember his name, but when they showed that he was from Panguitch, Utah, I was like, oh, this is going to get us in a lot of trouble. Anyway, but when that happens, when there's the explosion and he's on that, and the Tom Skerritt character dies, I don't feel like I get shocked in movies very much. I did not see that coming. And so when the actual thing explodes and when the pieces of it are flying towards the building where they're at, I remember, and again, just watching it this morning, my jaw was hanging open because I couldn't believe they would do that. Like, that's not what happens in. So there are only 3 times that a movie has ever shocked me. There's this with that point. There's the Manchurian Candidate. There's a part in there, the original one with Sinatra.
Mhm.
I'm not going to ruin it for you, but there's a part in there that I yelped because I couldn't believe that they actually did something like that. And then there's a movie that John Carpenter directed called Assault in Precinct 13 that has to do with an ice cream and a little girl. And what happens there shocked me to my core. So there are only 3 times in movies that I've ever been totally shocked by something that happens. And that part with the machine is one of them. I just thought it was a very powerful kind of, what the hell was that kind of moment.
Yeah.
And then
that is, sorry.
No, go ahead, Kevin. Go ahead. I want you to.
Yeah, no, that I agree with you. That moment is really shocking because they've built Tom Skerritt up as like he's a political bureaucrat. Like he's on the side of the government people, but he's also on Ellie's side too. It's like he's sort of like sort of helping her out. And so when he dies, it's like it is shocking because we like him, but it's also, I think it also makes it doesn't feel out of left field because the movie's been building it. They've been building up the guy who does it, like in the background of scenes over the course of it. And so it's like, okay, this is the culmination of that.
Yeah, it doesn't come out of nowhere.
Yeah, no, it isn't. No, and that's the thing. Like if they had just and I clocked that. So that is actually the first bit of action in the movie, or action-ish. That comes like an hour and a half into the movie. That's been nothing but conversations and movement. But yeah, it happens and it's shocking, and then it gets back to the story again. But yeah, it's a very effective moment. And the first time I saw this, I definitely did not see that coming. Like I was like, oh, what are they going to do? Like, are we going to escalate this or what? Like,
because we know that she's going to be the one to go, right? Yeah.
And inherently, I was like, all right, how they're going to get? I was like, are they going to get her to go, or she's going to be directly, the guy in the chair, like monitoring whoever does? And then it's like, okay, but no, like, yeah, she's going to go. The way they get her there, it's like, man, movie, what did Tom Skerritt do to you?
Right. Well, Johnny, what do you think about that part?
Well,
before I talk
I think they kind of hint that something bad's going to happen. And the way they were filming Jodie Foster, the way she's watching everything, the way she's like, she's going to be one to find the problem and maybe, warn everybody. You sense that in the way they filmed it. So like, I wasn't surprised by the thing blowing up. Yeah, it was, I guess it's, the way they did it was cool and everything, but I knew something bad was going to happen just by how they were filming Jodie Foster and how she was watching everything so closely. It was like, yeah, something bad's going to happen pretty soon here.
Right.
So,
but maybe not that, you know what I mean? Like,
sure, yeah.
Something bad's going to happen because she's got to be the one to go. But
right.
Okay. So yeah, that in a movie theater shocked me. The other thing I really like, there's a lot of cool symbolism here. I know the Arroway, the name Arroway is actually named after, I have to scroll all the way up here. It's a reference to the French philosopher Voltaire, whose real name is Arroway, and so that's where she gets her name from. I like that her dad, Ellie's dad, calls her Sparks, which you think is a spark of imagination, but it's more of a nickname given to early radio operators because they use spark gap transmitters. I thought that was cool. I like the Kent Clark character, who's maybe a play on Clark Kent, but I like how William Fichtner is blind, but he's the one that can sense something inside the diagrams, right? He's the one that can actually hear Ellie say, I'm good to go. And so in a movie that's about signals and about listening, I like that it's the blind guy that's able to have a connection and to be there as kind of a warm kind of blanket. And then I don't know, what did you guys think of? I think that whole last sequence is an eye popper. It's not too wacky, but it's wacky enough that you're like, you get that you've been on an experience. But I like that it's kind of a death and a rebirth for Ellie, because as I was watching it, my wife was like, so is she dead? Did she die? Is this a near-death experience? And I was like, oh, it could be that. It could be a dream. It could be a hallucination. She's pulling in information, like she draws her dad a picture of a beach with palm trees earlier in the movie, and then she sees that there's a picture when it's Palmer and her in bed, and there's a picture that shows like a bunch of planets that are in a curve. She sees that like as part of the vision that she's having or whatever, and then she meets her dad, like it's the aliens or God or whatever that take place they take the shape of her dad to make it easier. And it's a lovely moment on that beach because it's very, you can tell it's fake. Everything's fake besides them. And I think it works in here as opposed to something like in Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland or anything where it's just really kind of crazy.
Fair,
But
yeah.
I like that they give her that closure with her dad, but it also is the sign that, oh, there are other things out there and this is something that I can pass on. But I love, again, when she steps into the sphere, it's kind of like she's entombed in there. It's kind of like she sits in an electric chair. It's like she has to die and be reborn, come out on the other side. I like when she's seeing all the weird morphing stuff and she can't really explain it. She's trying to use science to explain what she sees. And I guess it's this, I guess it's electromagnetic. She's trying to basically, transcribe what she's seeing, and she just can't, to the point where she's talking to Congress and she's like, can't explain what I saw. I just know that I saw it. I just think that when it does the thing where her face kind of stretches out, like future past kind of stuff, I get emotional when her face changes to Jenna Malone because she's recapturing, she's getting rid of that cynicism. She's capturing the innocence and the joy of discovery. And so that part always gets me. I just think that whole sequence at the end is just it's a mind blower and it's eye popping, but not in a way that's kind of alienating. Kevin, what do you think about that sequence?
Yeah, that sequence is real. That sequence is everything you just said. It is fantastic. I think that it's a big enough of like a bit spectacle payoff. Like, look, you've been sitting here for 2 hours watching people talk. Like, this is the money segment, and it totally pays off. It works great, and on an emotional level, I think the visuals of it still hold up really well. The fact that on the beach, everything sort of looks sort of blurry or not quite there, except for her and her dad, feels like a creative decision and not we rushed the CG artists or anything, or we didn't have enough time with this. And I also really like, and this is something that a lot of movies get wrong, like when they have a character go through a portal or whatever, the lights are flashing on their face. It drives me nuts when in something like the Godzilla versus Kong movies or something, like when they go into Hollow Earth, and it's like they're doing that same facial melting effect of like, oh, it's big flashy lights. It's like almost strobing a little bit. I love that they did the flashy stuff with her face, but it didn't turn me off. It was like, okay, I get it, it's happening. She's traveling through time or space or whatever, but it doesn't visually overload me. So I'm still with her and feeling the emotions that she does. It's seeing her dad or a projection of her dad again. So it's like, I don't know. I'm really big on like wanting to feel something with stories. Like I want to feel what a character is at the time and go on a journey with them through a story. And this really nails that for me with how the conclusion plays out.
Perfect. Okay, Johnny, what do you think about that whole last sequence, the money sequence?
I remember when I first saw it that I kind of rolled my eyes about it, like, "Oh, really? This is how we're doing it? This is how we're going to end this movie?" But this time around, I didn't mind it so much. Like, I was kind of like, "All right, I can buy this, and I can go along with this," and so I appreciate it more now than I did when I first saw it.
Okay, perfect. So basically, for me, that's Contact in a nutshell. It covers the religion stuff, it covers the science stuff in a way that's, again, very bold. I think today's movies, as a general rule, the blockbusters are kind of chicken about bringing this kind of stuff up. And watching this movie now, it's interesting how rich and kind of bold it is and how it brings up and talks about these things, which we don't really talk about anymore. So that's basically my and like I said, it ends in a way that it leaves it up to you. I think that's great. I like the way that it ends there. But Kevin, did you have any, oh, actually, let me ask Johnny first. Johnny, did you have any final thoughts on the movie? Anything that we haven't discussed?
Let's see. I had some notes. Well, it was just a side note that I worked with Tom Skerritt on Bonneville. That was it. That's all I wrote down.
Okay. How was he to work with? Good guy.
He was a nice guy. Tom Skerritt and Tom Wopat were both in that movie. And I remember I had a time where I sat and talked to both of them, and I was like, here I am on the film set talking to Tom Skerritt and Tom Wopat at the same time. It was pretty cool. But
okay.
Yeah.
Kevin, what about you? Any final thoughts on the movie?
Yeah. I would say that So like there's a movie from years after this called Arrival that gets brought up that has a very similar idea of like, what if aliens were real and we took it seriously and tried to be adults about it. I prefer this to both. I think both are good movies that are going for like big emotional payoffs with the characters along with the science fiction stuff. But I think this is it's the better version of that for me because first off, it's more visual. It's visually, it's just nicer to look at. I like natural colors and things. I don't like washed out, dark, gloomy, gray all the time. And then also, I just think that this is, I don't know, it's more. This is more like entertaining and engaging to me on like, I don't know, it's more on an emotional level where it doesn't feel like it's trying to make me cry. It just arrives there naturally. And so it was interesting thinking about that, watching this, like, why does this work better for me in both those movies attaching very similar things? And I would also say this is probably outside of Flight, which is in the 2010s.
Right. It's Zemeckis.
I think,
right?
yeah, like I think that this, I appreciate that this is one of the last gasps of mature Robert Zemeckis before all the Polar Express stalls invaded his mind.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not. So yeah, and I think So yeah, there's that, and then I think that this holds up well. Like I watch a lot when I watch older things, I'm like, all right, does this hold up to me now? And I think it does. I can picture a lot of people watching this now. If you didn't tell them it was from 1997, they'd be like, oh, when did they make this? Like, is this new? I feel like that people would find it refreshing. So it's held up I think it's held up to the test of time in a way that a lot of sci-fi things from this time don't.
Absolutely. I think if anything, it's stronger now than it was back in 97, which is the point of the show. NostalgiaCast, trying to kind of make sense of that, reconcile these movies that are either stronger or resonate or anything like that. So yeah, I think Contact is a perfect kind of mind bender or question to ask yourself.
And I've never seen another filmmaker try to do a shot like they did in Contact. I haven't seen it since.
Yeah.
Like, and I haven't been blown away like that ever since I was blown away that first time I saw that shot. So
right.
They still have that going for them.
Still resonates. Perfect. Okay. Well, Kevin, again, this has been a long time coming, and I'm glad we're finally able to do this and get to it. But how can like we kind of breezed over it in the beginning because we have chatted with you before, and I'm chatting with you all the time on social media. But how can we find you, and what have you been up to, and how can we find you and your writing and your thoughts, anything like that?
Okay, so you can. I am on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. Sometimes I'm kind of you can find me on Twitter at Kevin_the Critic, Kevin the Critic on Facebook and Instagram. You can read my full written reviews at kevinthecritic.com, which has links to most of those. I'll add a Threads link. I'll add a Threads link soon enough. I've been doing good. I've been working on myself in various ways, still catching new movies, talking to people about movies all the time on the internet, anyone who will listen. And it's like, so yeah, I'm just as far as my online and on my personal page, just sharing cat memes. Like we
all need
to me the internet is to me the internet is for movie thoughts or cat memes or
That's
things
so
like
funny
this.
you say that because my wife has a cat channel.
Oh yeah,
right? It's funny. Yeah.
And I just want to make the internet a chippier place in any way I can.
Did you say chippier or kittier?
Chippier. No. It's the internet is a childish enough place. I said chippier, not more childish. It's a no. But yeah, kevinthecritic.com. You can find all my written reviews there. I've been doing it since I was 10 years old, which is coming up on, this is 2026. So that would be 21 years now, come this May.
Wow. Okay. Oh, congrats.
Thank you.
Right.
It's been a fun ride, and I hope it keeps going.
Okay, and hopefully we'll have you on before we do another 50 or so episodes. So we'll try to get you on for another conversation.
Yes, you did First Contact. This is Second Contact, and then maybe it'll be
something else with Contact.
I don't know any other Contact titled movies.
We can find one. There's probably a Chuck Norris or Steven Seagal movie with Contact.
Oh, don't make me watch. Please don't make me. I will watch Jack and Jill 10 times over before subjecting myself to what Steven Seagal calls acting again.
Yeah, it's true. All right. Well, okay. Well, mark that down. No Steven Seagal for Kevin, or maybe Steven Seagal for Kevin. One or the other. Okay.
Hey, if you do, I'll do it. Like, hey, I will suffer through for the art of entertainment.
Okay. Well, we appreciate that, Kevin. We appreciate your time. So thank you for joining us again. Okay. So that's going to wrap up Contact. That's going to wrap up another episode of NostalgiaCast. And until we see you next time, I'm Darin.
And I'm Jonny.
And first rule in government spending: why build one when you can have two at twice the price?
I've always believed the world is what we make of it.
Good McConaughey impression. Oh, wait, that's Jodie Foster, isn't it? That's Jodie Foster.
I don't know who says it.
That's Jodie Foster doing a McConaughey impression.
And this isn't a quote from the movie, but McConaughey in this movie is, that guy, fella, he's all right. Praise
there you go.
Profound. All right, we'll catch you next time, guys. Thank you.